can't be the only person who lives in North Dakota and does not like winter. I hate winter here and I hate the cold. By the end of this speech, I hope that I'm able to help you find reasoning to why you would want to move to a warmer state and become a happier person. I was able to prove how the cold climates can change someone's mood by the reaction of natural receptors in the body, how expensive it can get living in winter environments, and what setbacks can occur, and lastly, how living in a warmer place can make you a happier person. Weather changes one's mood and energy. During the winter, between December and February, the amount of sunlight starts to decrease and the days start to get shorter. This greatly affects how a person starts their day and determines what the mood will be. During these long, cold months, a lot of people go through the winter blues. The winter blues is also known as a seasonal affective disorder, which is a pattern of major depression experienced at a certain time of the year every year. According to Melrose, people with SAD, which is a seasonal affective disorder, tend to have trouble regulating the neurotransmitter serotonin, overproducing melatonin, and losing great amounts of vitamin D. The neurotransmitter serotonin is believed to be responsible for mood. In a study, researchers found that the SERT, which is a protein that helps transmit serotonin, is higher in the winter than the summer. They found that the sun tends to keep the SERT levels low, but the beginning of fall and colder months causes the SERT levels to increase. Decrease of sunlight raises the SERT levels, which causes an activity of serotonin, and the inactivity of serotonin can lead to depression. Melrose assumes that vitamin D also plays a role with serotonin activity. With not being able to go outside as often and having less exposure to the sun, it was proven that vitamin D deficiency is associated with clinically depressed symptoms. In response to colder and darker days, people with SAD get sleepy, and the overproduction of melatonin is the cause of this. Melatonin is a hormone that reacts to darkness and causes sleepiness. The combination of both inactivity of serotonin and melatonin production impacts the circadian rhythm. The circadian rhythm is a 24-hour clock that is synchronized that responds to light and dark changes that happen every day, every season. It was found that people with SAD have a hard time adjusting to different seasons because their circadian rhythms are timed differently. Quote, the human body grows accustomed to certain eating and sleeping cycles. Heavy snow, ice storms, and extreme cold could all throw the cycles off. Another reason why winter is unfavorable is because cold weather can get pretty expensive. If you have to change your whole wardrobe style or attire, then that's a sign for you to move. Summer clothes are one thing, but winter clothes are another. It gets expensive when you have to buy yourself a new pair of boots or a new coat every year. It gets expensive when especially for young growing people, whether it's kids or teens. We don't stop growing until like mid or late 20s, so every year expect yourself having to pay for new clothes to last your freezing season. You might find yourself a couple of clothes, boots, items that you used last year that you can use for the next, but they won't last long. All material items are meant to wear out and get old or gain tears and rips over the years. Like everyone else, you grow out of things and buy things that fit. A couple of things that are essential in winter are coats, gloves, hats, scarves, etc. These things can cost a pretty penny and can be even more costly depending on how organized you are. If you're the type of person to lose stuff, or how warm you want to be, if you want extra clothing like leggings, long johns, or different brands. If there's naturally a brand preference, some brands have more expensive winter gear than others. Winter gear is not the only expensive part. There's also gas and heating. Gas is used to run your car, produce heat for your car, heat the buildings you need to go into, heat the place you live in. Depending on how you go about your bills, some people have to pay for gas and heating to run hot water, to shower or cook, and to heat your stove or your home to stay warm. Starting your car 30 minutes before you have to go anywhere is such a hassle, and I'm sure that is where most of your gas goes in the winter. prefer paying for gas every other week in the summer rather than paying or having to fill my tank every week in the winter. According to Amanda Stephenson, the Canadian Press, as the pandemic restrictions started to alleviate, the demand for fossil fuels increased. COVID-19 put a break in economic activity, so the production for natural gas is not keeping up with consumer demands, and the storage levels are 5 years low. Imagine knowing that your country is 5 years low in a resource used to produce heat and gas to survive a winter that yourself with no heat or gas would not survive in. Living in winter conditions should expect paying more on gas and heating. Another example of a current event that will greatly increase prices is the ban on Russian oil. On March 8, 2022, Joe Biden announced the ban on Russian oil, gas, and energy, meaning that imports from Russia are not accepted at U.S. ports. To avoid military action, Biden deals with Russia's aggression by cutting off the form of revenue for Russia's oil, making Russia find new markets to fulfill consumers. Meanwhile, the U.S. is trying to adequately find a new substitute. People should expect prices to skyrocket. With these prices rising, it could cause a disaster for people who live in cold environments. Heat and gas will be going up, and consumers must be able to afford these prices to survive. I struggle with winter mostly because there's nothing to do. Top things I can think of to do in winter are sledding, snowboarding, or building a snowman. It takes me a while to think of anything else before I can come up with the next activity. When it comes to summer, there are so many things I can name off the top of my head, like swimming, going on a boat, parachuting, skydiving, cookouts, camping, and there's a lot more. There are all these fun activities you can do in the summer. Why would you want to prefer living in cold winter environments? Don't get me wrong, some activities in the winter are fun, but it's hard to maintain that fun when you nearly have to freeze yourself to death. The ideal environment would be a place where you can still enjoy some cold, because I understand winter holidays are not winter holidays without some cold. Places like Colorado, Virginia, and Utah, where the weather doesn't get too hot or too cold. These states fall in the middle or between the northern states like North Dakota, Minnesota, and New York, and southern states like Arizona, South Carolina, and Texas. The temperature range year-round for the central states I mentioned are 20 to 90 degrees Fahrenheit. This is a perfect temperature range to be living in. Don't have to be too cold and it doesn't get too hot. If you're not enjoying the bizarre winters of North Dakota, along with the northern states, then move to a warmer place. I personally think anyone can make it anywhere, live anywhere, work anywhere, and it's all up to the person and how determined they are. If you're a person like me who cannot tolerate any coldness, then I suggest moving to a warmer place and becoming a happier person. Take this summer to go work and start looking at the great possibilities.
Thank you.